Hi everyone, I'm back here with Stu, and this week in London we hosted our latest dinner event at the Hawksmoor.
We did. Steak was amazing.
Nice. Hopefully I'll get an invite to the next one.
Yeah, no.
No, probably not. But yeah, so this was our latest event attended by thought leaders in the advertising industry. But over the last couple of weeks we've seen a lot in the press about the death, albeit slow and drawn out, of the third-party cookie. What was the mood like in the room? Do people kind of accept that third-party cookie is dead?
Yeah, I think most publishers and those that don't have probably got their head stuck in the sand. But I think the general mood is most people, or most publishers, accept that the third-party cookie is going to die. I think we touched on it last time in terms of kind of how long it will take and kind of Google's approach to it. But I think the general acceptance is that we're moving to a new era of an ecosystem that runs without the use of a third party. I think people are nervous of that. I think if you ask about the mood, people are nervous about that. And perhaps we can touch on a bit about why that is as we go through today. But an acceptance, it's going to happen, and maybe it solves some of the issues around kind of the black box nature of third party as well. So kind of a few things to pull out of that, but generally, yeah, people are accepting that we're seeing the beginnings of the end for the third party cookie.
Because I'm interested to know, therefore, what the feeling is towards Google and Apple, for example. Obviously, from a consumer point of view, I think it can definitely be argued that the end of third-party cookies is a good thing. Tracking consent through third-party cookies has been a struggle, and it's had a lot of bad press recently. But it underpins the advertising ecosystem at the moment. Most publishers and advertisers are dependent on the connectivity that third-party cookies provide. So how are people feeling about kind of the struggles that are going to be ahead?
I think we could probably break it down to kind of three areas of focus. So let's deal with Apple and Safari first in particular. And I think certainly the feedback we got, and maybe this resonates with more people watching this, the Safari ecosystem in terms of addressable audience and the use of third-party cookies and what that means in terms of being able to identify people and buy them in the right way, etc., is pretty much dead. It's a dead zone in terms of your ability to do anything within that space. I challenge everybody to go and start looking at kind of top 20, top 30 sites around the world through Safari and seeing the types of ads that are running, and you're probably going to find that there's not a lot of audience-based targeting, not a lot of kind of big brands within that space. So I think people have kind of accepted that kind of environment is probably pretty much a dead zone to them now, and working around it. And thankfully, it's not a huge kind of share of market, so it's not hit or impacted revenues too much right now. From a Google point of view, kind of mixed emotions about Google, I guess. Google is evil and all that. I didn't get a sense that that's the kind of prevailing view. I think people generally feel a little bit of sympathy for Google at the moment, stuck a little bit between kind of a rock and a hard place of damned if they do, damned if they don't. Yeah. If they make the same kind of changes that Google made, Apple made around Safari and ITP, they get all the antitrust thing in their face. You can't do this, antitrust, etc. But on the other kind of side of it, if they do nothing because of the antitrust concerns or issues, then they get the whole, well, you're not addressing privacy and this isn't right and you should be doing more, etc. So they're kind of stuck between that kind of rock and a hard place. I think they've been very smart about, as we touched on last week, about their answer to that and what it means. But I think there's some genuine kind of sympathy as to Google's kind of approach. It still heralds the same output, which is we're going to move to a first-party world. And that's kind of the third point I think that we'll take out from that, which is a genuine acceptance that data portability, the connectivity to the ecosystem has to evolve into a first-party environment. And that in itself generates some challenges around creating logged-in experiences or using known audience PII as kind of the data portability cues and keys within that environment. It creates some challenges around how do we get people to do that, and do we think it'll actually proliferate through the industry? Questions around universal ID and SSO and all these other things that we can touch on. But that's the kind of general view.
So we've just passed on Saturday. It was the 1 year anniversary of the introduction of GDPR.
Yep, happy birthday GDPR.
Of course. Still
a toddler.
Yeah, there you go. But what we saw with GDPR is a lot of people left it till kind of the last minute to implement solutions that dealt with the issues that GDPR introduced for them. Are we going to see the same thing with this? Because it's not likely that Google are going to give us a lot of kind of headway on when that's going to happen or when they're going to introduce their new features. So are we going to see companies leaving it to the last minute again?
I hope not, because there was lots of sleepless nights. I think two factors to consider there. One is it's not a hard and fast date. There's not it's happening on the 25th of May kind of thing. So I think that allows for a bit more flexibility on when people do and don't do things. I also think it really depends on the publisher's aptitude towards or interest in that kind of first party change. Those that see it as an opportunity, and we can talk a bit more about why it potentially is an opportunity in a moment, those that see it as an opportunity are going to start to embrace those solutions earlier, versus those that perhaps sit more in that kind of reactive mindset, or those with their head in the sand that don't believe that third-party cookies are going to go away, obviously not going to embrace a first-party change. I guess the challenge there for those that do move early in that space is that it's an evolving ecosystem that doesn't really, or isn't really well defined or structured at the moment.
Right.
So they're not going to see instant ROI, instant revenue opportunities and transformation of their business based off the new way to working. It's going to be a kind of a gradual process of moving from one to the other. As one starts to die away, one starts to grow up.
Yeah.
Obviously, the huge benefit to them is as it starts to grow and build momentum and reaches that inflection point of the changing nature of the entire ecosystem, they're really well positioned to then make a big difference and monetize that quickly, versus those that do live it to the last minute and then scrambling to try and catch up. Yeah.
So I guess you're talking about two things there: the people that will be more reactive to what happens versus the more proactive, positive approach and the opportunity that potentially provides.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, hearing the feedback, hearing the discussions, listening to the various parties around the table talking, I actually think a lot of people see this change, albeit challenging from a structure point of view, challenging from a infrastructure point of view, and to a degree kind of forced upon us by what's happened with the various players within the industry space. I think a lot of them see it as a positive thing for their business. There's so much value, opportunity, creativity, and application locked up in the knowledge that is tied to known audiences versus unknown audiences, whether that be brand, whether that be publisher, the flexibility, the understanding, the ability to create opportunities to talk to people in a much more inclusive and personalised way. I think excites publishers, excites brands. It makes them want to embrace this way forward. And if you kind of work through the process we're going to have to work through over the next 12, 18 months to get there, I think the end goal is actually quite exciting and quite transformational. And I think that's something that certainly the people sat around the table, irrespective of their differing views of how, why, when, etc., all agree on that one kind of common principle, which is fundamentally long term, this is a good thing for us both from a privacy point of view and a consumer point of view, but also from a revenue point of view.
Right, that makes perfect sense to me. So I think we're going to have more conversations like this as things evolve over the next 12 to 18 months, as you say. So be sure to subscribe to our channel to find out when our latest video drops. And if you're interested in attending one of our dinners, get in touch, comment below, and we'll be sure to reach out to you.
The steak will be amazing every time.
Stu will be there. Apparently I won't be. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys really soon.